Guys, I had to adjust the phone to where it's more inside the truck because it overheated. So that's the deal. So I can't really see a whole lot about what's going on because it's sort of back inside the car, but hopefully it'll stay positioned and we'll be able to have a really, really big shoe for today. Um, I am attorney Michael Eline. As you guys know, I am an attorney licensed in California and Texas. Today I'm coming at you live from Nevada, headed over to Powerhouse Gym, trying to get a little workout in. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm just going to take a really quick look to make sure everything's squared away before I keep rolling. Before I keep Rizzy rolling, you know what I'm saying? All right, so it looks like it's pretty good. All right, looks like we got one person in the Chizzy chat. All right, we're going to keep on headed out. All right, so as you guys know, I primarily do catastrophic injury law, but my background is civil rights. And I think that most of you guys know that I am a Second Amendment rights advocate. Attorney Alan Beck works with my firm, and he is the guy who introduced me to Dick Heller. And Dick Heller is the man in the myth and the legend behind the seminal case of DC versus Heller, where the Supreme Court upheld what we already knew if we were real Americans, which is that the right to keep and bear arms applies to individuals, not just members of the military. And people that have followed my channel understand that our founding fathers never even wanted a standing army. And that is the reason that there's every 2 years an appropriations bill passed to refund the military. The point is our founders were isolationists. They didn't want us meddling in European affairs, and they didn't want the monarchs, kings, and globalists of Europe meddling in ours. And that is the facts. And there are two types of militias. There are regulars who can be federalized, and there are irregulars, which is you and I. Every single male 16 and over is automatically a member of the irregular militia if they're an American citizen by birth. And it is your duty to be well regulated. And well regulated militia has nothing to do with being contrary to what the Democrats want to tell you. It has nothing to do with government regulation. It has to do with being well trained and in good military order, that you are well trained in the use of your firearm and the cleaning of firearms, care of firearms, muzzle discipline, barrel discipline, however you want to say it. That is the reality. So let's fast forward into what's been going on. We've seen a slow degradation of our unalienable rights under both political parties in this country. And now, for the first time I've seen in years, contrary to what I was thinking is going to happen, it looks like, hey, good seeing you guys. It looks like the Trump administration is going to do us a solid. And I'll take what I can get. Being a libertarian, I don't trust either party, but I'll take the solid. I'll take it. And so let me break down for you what's going on. So Alan Beck, who works with the Eline law firm, he's on the website, is, in my opinion, probably the best or one of the best gun rights lawyers in the country, definitely the best gun rights lawyer in California. And he's also licensed in Hawaii. And so I've had the honor and privilege of having Alan come on my show and talk to you guys in the past. But I'm going to just throw it out there for you what's going on right now. I'm going to try to put it into layman's terms as I cruise to the gym, so I don't have to get into too much legal terminology. But typically, when there's a jurisdictional split and there's an interlocutory appeal, we wait until that interlocutory issue is resolved before we take it up to the Supreme Court. But in this particular case, the issue is we have some states that say that under the Bruin decision, that all Americans, I think, at least 25 or so states believe this, and they've joined in this amicus brief, which I'll tell you about in a minute, that all Americans have the right to keep and bear arms, and that also applies to concealed carry. But in California, primarily under the Democrats, the only way that you could get a concealed carry permit is if you were friends with a Democrat politician and you were a Hollywood actor or somebody like that. And it was a issue for cause, okay? Issue for cause. And what that meant is, even if you had had a contact with the police, like if you'd called 911, good seeing you, Leo, good seeing you, Bob Eisenhart, Mr. Osgood, Lenny Malley, Semper Fidelis guys. what basically an issue for cause meant is you had to have good cause. The Second Amendment wasn't good enough cause. You had to show that your life was in some kind of danger. Some cities would issue them just for travel in and through the city if you were transporting large amounts of cash, et cetera, et cetera. And you couldn't, take it outside the city or the county that it was issued. The conservative counties like San Bernardino, the sheriff normally would issue permits, and I believe that there was a famous case involving Sylvester Stallone where he made it look like he'd moved to Orange County or San Bernardino when they had a conservative pro-constitution sheriff so he could get a gun permit. So all these Democrat actors and stuff, they all wanted to be able to have, and still do want to be able to have, the right to keep and bear arms. But that's how it's always been with the elite class, right? The monarchical class, the oligarch class. They want to have rights and privileges that normal people like you and I don't have, because we're just a little people and we're not entitled to exercise our rights. Hey, Chevy, good seeing you, brother. Everybody say hi to Chevy. Chevy is one of my bigger donors, and he has done a lot to help keep my channel alive while I've been going through a lot of physical issues with my back. And it really means a lot to me that you guys maintain your support for Team MPE. Give me a bunch of ones for Chevy. He's one of my main benefactors, and he's also a main benefactor of my good friend Chili DeCastro over at Delete Laws. So I'm glad to have you here. So Chevy, hopefully you'll enjoy this. I'm driving and trying to teach a little bit. I'm not going to get into too much detail about all the legal posture of what's going on, but my friend Alan Beck, who is an amazing Second Amendment rights lawyer, also an inactive U.S. Marine like me. He was a tanker. I was an infantryman. We're a match made in heaven. We like to put warheads on foreheads and make sure to put rounds on target accurately. And so we've worked together. And we're both lawyers, and we're both super gung-ho about America. We love our country, and we put America first. USA all the way, baby. And so Alan, being a Hawaii lawyer, obviously Hawaii is like the Soviet Socialist Republic of California. It's very similar. They have far left Marxist judges, far left Marxist politicians, and anything that has to do with the Second Amendment, they don't want. And it really started with discrimination there against Samoans, because the politicians back then believed that Samoans were extra violent and they shouldn't be able to have guns. The king of Hawaii also didn't want anybody to have guns except for the king. And he used the European style weapons systems to kill all of his opponents in the Hawaiian monarchy, and made it illegal for the Hawaiian people to have weapons and arms. And it goes back to their Hawaiian history. And so the Hawaiian courts have relied on ancient Hawaiian history of depriving the citizens of their right to defend themselves against oppressive government as somehow some sort of honorable, amazing thing. And we need to honor the ancient Hawaiian king, and our great culture as Hawaiians. But really, it was that he wanted to slaughter all of his political opposition. That's the truth. King Kamehameha. And so that is where it comes from. And so the Hawaiian government has consistently made it illegal for you to get a permit to conceal carry. And California, in a similar fashion, has done a similar thing where you had to have a shell issue, and they made it a issue for cause, and they made it, so strike that, it's issue for cause. And they basically said, you know what, you can't have open carry either. So in essence, California has unlawfully and unconstitutionally deprived we the people of the right to keep and bear arms in that state in a fashion where we could defend ourselves. You have to lock your weapon or your pistol, have to lock it in a container. You have to have the magazine out of the mag well, and you cannot have it loaded and ready for action. And by the time you obviously get it out of the locked container, if you're being attacked by a bunch of Antifa or BLM rioters and you're driving on the freeway and they decide they want to attack you because you're the wrong skin color, for example, or the wrong gender, for example, you have no way to really defend yourself in that instance. And so, luckily, we do have some freedom fighters out there who are fighting for the common man, and not pro government, but pro man, pro individual rights, pro republic, like Alan Beck. And so what happened is there's now a jurisdictional split. Some states say under the Bruin case that the right to conceal carry is a shall issue right. So unless you have a felony for a violent offense, if you're otherwise qualified, the state must issue, shall issue. Shall is not permissive, it's mandatory. So hopefully you guys understand that. And by the way, thank you, Chevy, for the donation, brother. That means a lot. Everybody give me a bunch of ones for Chevy throwing me 50 bucks. That's going to go into my daughter's Roth IRA, and that means a lot to me, dude, big time. I mean, you have no idea how hard it is to do these shows. And I know I do it for free out of love for my countrymen, but it sure does feel good when I get a little bit of cash for it, because it puts me in a position where I just may be able to start doing this as a full-time job instead of having to litigate all day and go to court. And that would be my dream, right? Because my passion really is the Bill of Rights, natural law, and helping you guys form parallel systems, create our own Amish style system of liberty and freedom where the government leaves us alone. We homestead, we grow our own food, we homeschool our kids, get them away from the blue-haired rainbow flag mafia, and we don't have tampon machines in the boys' room. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. So, in essence, what's happened now is we have what's called the jurisdictional split. So, a jurisdictional split simply means that there are appellate courts in different states that disagree on constitutional or other principles, and they need to have comity in law. Similar to marriage laws, it used to be that some states didn't allow interracial marriages, which means that I would be guilty, since I'm in an interracial marriage, that I would be guilty of a felony if I had moved to a southern state from California, for example. So there was a jurisdictional split, and the Supreme Court intervened and said, no, all states have to manage the marriage, not manage, have to abide by and respect the marriage laws of other states. So if you move to another state, you're not all of a sudden a felon or a criminal just because you decided to marry somebody that you love, right? Hopefully that makes sense. Give me a bunch of ones if you understand jurisdictional split so far. So now that we have that going, we have a jurisdictional split on whether or not states shall issue, or is it just going to be a may issue, right? Now, we know that in Hawaii, they have like a may issue, but in essence, it was an issue based upon good cause, right? In other words, if some left-wing commie politician or judge decided that they don't want to issue you, or sheriff, that they didn't want to issue you a gun permit, you couldn't get it to conceal carry. And in essence, I believe in the last 18 years, only 5 concealed carry permits have been issued. And I could be wrong, I'll have to talk to Alan, but I'm pretty sure it's 4 or 5 in the last 18 years have been issued. And it's typically friends of a politician or the oligarchy that gets these permits, not an average person like you or I who simply wants to defend our family. As the government, like Sleepy Joe, floods our country with illegal alien criminals who want nothing more than to use the census to redistrict the entire country blue and get permanent welfare checks from the government. And that is, in essence, what Sleepy Joe was doing. None of the illegal aliens that came into our country over the last 4 years are working on farms, are doing labor. They were all brought into inner cities, immediately put on welfare in expensive hotels, given free cell phones for the sole and express purpose of creating about 13 new Democrat seats by using the United States Census. So just so you understand what's going on. So They've reduced the penalties for violent crimes. We've got George Soros prosecutors who will not prosecute crimes against people if they attack someone of a color they don't like. They may say, oh, the victim has white privilege, so we're not going to go after him. In essence, that's what's been going on. So people are terrified. They want to be able to keep and bear arms, conceal carry, et cetera, et cetera. And in some states, it is totally normal. For example, in Arizona, it's an open carry state. I mean, it's getting worse there. We saw what happened to Lane Myers. There, Californians are moving there and voting for basically voting for what they escaped: high taxes, high regulations, high crime, and and lack of safety, just like they did in Colorado. But then they vote for the same bullshit that they can't afford anymore that they voted for. So in essence, that's what's happened there. But the good news is because we now have this jurisdictional split, the Supreme Court can now intervene. Now we know the Obama appointed judges and perhaps even Justice Roberts and Barrett may be against this because a lot of people believe that they're compromised. So we're not sure how this is going to go. But here's what the cool thing about this that I want to tell you guys. This is one of the first times in history that this has happened, and certainly in modern history. Bondi's AG, Bondi, the Attorney General, has her Department of Justice, check this out, guys, has joined in an amicus brief with Alan, who works with the Eline law firm. So my Alan Beck, my brother in arms, my fellow attorney who's my good friend, my black belt jiu-jitsu buddy, just got the Department of Justice to join in amicus, an amicus curiae brief with his case against the government of Hawaii. And this is a really, really big deal, guys. This is going to the United States Supreme Court. And so without the federal government fighting against this, there is a high statistical probability that we will have shell issue concealed carry in all the states. So you won't have to worry about crossing into communist California and being thrown in prison for the felony of having a firearm on you, right? That's not locked in a container, that's not loaded. So this is a really, really big deal, guys, and I'm super, super excited to be able to present this information to you. I'm really, really thrilled about this, and I just wanted you guys to know what's going on because this is something I've been keeping under wraps until it became public. So I promised Alan that I wouldn't mention anything until it came out. But you can check out Armed Scholar. There is a video on Armed Scholar. I think it was released today that talks about it. And look, I'm not a big fan of Bondi. I think she may be compromised with the Epstein Island situation and some other issues. But I'm not a big fan of government anyways. I think that less government equals more freedom. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree with that less government means more freedom, right, guys? So in any event, I'm going to go hit the gym. And let me see here. Hopefully you guys can still see and hear me. But I'm going to go hit the gym, try to get a little workout in. Good seeing you, Chevy. Yeah, for sure, brother. Dan Hanlon, thank you, bro. Let me see. What's the matter, you? I'm digging it, man. Digging seeing you, bro. Hopefully you guys like the shorts that I've been putting up. I've just been putting up stuff showing like violent acts of people doing crazy stuff, being inconsiderate, and asking you lawyer questions like, do you think this is a crime? Just to try to get a rise out of people and have some fun. But I'll try to do a live today and get some other good content up. But I've just been burned out and fried and haven't been able to go live. No, Caesar, I'm not in Phoenix, but I have friends there. And I do plan on doing a show about Lane Myers. I got to talk to Reluctant Prophet and find out what's going on. But as you can see, I look pretty haggardly. I've been working about 18 hours a day for the last straight 5 days, trying to get ahead, get caught up on cases, turning salt and pepper gray from all the stress. And I just got to hit the gym and get a workout in. But my true love is the Constitution, the Second Amendment, the Bill of Rights, natural law, the Declaration of Independence. Of course I have, several times. Mr. Russian writing, acrylic writing guy. And I know I look how I feel. That's right, Rami, I sure do. Caesar, right now I'm just hanging out in Vegas, just right outside of Summerlin. But I'm licensed in California and Texas. If you ever want to meet up at the rifle range, feel free to meet us. I usually will go shooting at the gun range, the indoor gun range next to the Leathernecks Bar and Historical Museum near the Strip. Sometimes we'll go to the Bass Pro Shop gun range, and I try to help teach people basic fundamentals of marksmanship. I also do a CQB class for female sexual assault victims out in the BLM land, where we set up 2x4s and we create a little miniature shoot house. So I teach you how to clear rooms and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm only licensed in California and Texas, so that's about the best that I can do for you as far as the law goes. I'm considering getting a Nevada law license, and I'm considering trying to get waived into Arizona, but I've got to get caught up on my current caseload, the present caseload that I have. So anyways, that was the show pretty much for today, was to go over what's going on with this amicus brief that Alan Beck was joined by the freaking doggone Department of Justice. They joined in his case against Hawaii, along with 25 other states, saying that they believe that the Second Amendment is the supreme law of the land. Look, marriage isn't even a right under the Constitution, but the right to keep and bear arms is. So many people are kind of blown away. Hey, Miss Constitutional Rights, good seeing you, ma'am. Good seeing you too, Sinful Toaster. Semper Fidelis, man. So I'm going to go hit the gym, guys, and thanks again for joining me. But this is a really big day for the Second Amendment and for the natural law of self-defense, especially when our government has flooded our country with illegal alien criminals from gang members all over the country, all over the world, and flooded them into our country. And now, at least, we may be able to have the right to keep and bear arms and defend ourselves against these savages that Sleepy Joe with his auto pen and all those scumbags in his administration flooded our country with in order to use the United States Census to turn the entire country blue and make us no different than communist China with no right of dissent. So this is going to be a really, really big deal. Ms. Constitutional Rights said, what did she say? I got fired in Texas for no reason. Well, we can take a look at it. I don't do employment law at all. I just do catastrophic injury and some police shooting cases, but I can ask some of my buddies, Miss Constitutional Rights. And then Virginia, Caceres. Well, tell us you're a Democrat without telling us you're a Democrat, Virginia. Sorry about the audio being fuzzy, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Semper Fidelis, guys. Have a great day, and I'll try to go live later if possible, all right? With that being said, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know the thought police. One of the thought police are going to take down this channel. Wow.